The backyard was full of laughter. Music played softly near the food table. Children ran between chairs, and the smell of grilled chicken drifted through the warm evening air. It looked like any normal family reunion, but for Maria, every gathering like this came with quiet worrying. Her son, Eli, was 8 years old and autistic. Loud noises, bright lights, and big crowds could overwhelm him fast. She always kept a close eye on him, ready to step in the moment he needed her. That evening, Eli sat near the edge of the yard, spinning a small toy car in his hands. It was his way of staying calm. He wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't bothering anyone. He was simply being himself. Across the yard, Maria's older sister, Denise, watched him with a tight, annoyed expression. Denise had never really understood Eli. She often said things like, "He just needs more discipline," or "You baby him too much." Maria had learned to ignore those comments. But tonight would be different. As more people arrived, the noise grew louder. Someone turned up the music. A group of kids started shouting during a game. Eli's hands started to shake. He covered his ears and rocked slightly, trying to block out the chaos around him. Maria noticed right away. She began walking toward him, speaking softly, "Hey, buddy, let's go somewhere quieter." But before she could reach him, Denise stepped in front of her, arms crossed. "Oh my God, Maria, can you control your kid for once?" Denise said loudly. Everyone is staring. The yard went quiet. All eyes turned toward them. Eli's breathing became faster. Tears filled his eyes. He wasn't misbehaving, he was overwhelmed, and now more people were watching him than ever before. Maria felt her chest tighten. "Denise, not now," she whispered firmly. "He's having a hard time." "I need to." "No," Denise snapped, cutting her off. "This happens every single time. He ruins every family event with his tantrums. Maybe if you actually parented him instead of making excuses, he wouldn't be such an embarrassment." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some relatives looked away, uncomfortable. Others just stood frozen, unsure what to do. Eli, hearing the word embarrassment, began to cry harder. He didn't fully understand every word, but he understood the tone. He understood that people were upset with him. Maria's heart shattered. Not because of what Denise said about her, but because of what it did to her son. She knelt beside Eli, gently placing her hand on his back. "It's okay, baby. I'm here. We're leaving." She stood up, looked directly at Denise, and said in a calm, steady voice, "You will never speak to my son like that again." Then, without raising her voice, without arguing further, Maria picked up Eli's small backpack, took his hand, and walked straight through the crowd toward her car. She didn't look back. She didn't need to explain herself to anyone. Behind her, she could hear murmurs starting, some defending her, some staying silent, and Denise, loud as ever, saying, "She's so dramatic." "I was just being honest." Maria buckled Eli into his car seat, her hands trembling slightly as she fought to stay calm for him. She turned on his favorite calming music and took a deep breath before starting the engine. As she pulled out of the driveway, relief washed over her. She had done the right thing. She had chosen her son over the family's comfort. She thought the hardest part of the night was already over. She was wrong. 15 minutes into the drive, her phone rang. The screen showed an unknown number. She almost ignored it, thinking it might be a relative calling to apologize or argue. But something told her to answer. "Hello." "Hi, is this Maria Reyes?" A woman's voice asked, calm but official. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Claire Bennett. I'm calling from Child Protective Services." Maria's stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, what?" "We received a report tonight regarding possible neglect and endangerment involving your son, Eli." For a moment, Maria couldn't speak. Her mind raced, trying to understand what was happening. She had just left a family party. Nothing had happened that could be considered neglect. Eli was safe. He was with her the entire time. There must be some mistake, Maria said, her voice shaking. "I don't understand. Who filed this?" There was a brief pause on the line. I'm not able to share that information right now, but we do need to schedule a home visit as part of standard procedure. Maria gripped the steering wheel tightly, glancing at Eli in the rearview mirror. He had finally started to calm down, his eyes half closed, exhausted from the emotional night. She thought about the party. She thought about the argument. She thought about the one person who had humiliated her son in front of everyone and who never liked being told no. A cold, sinking feeling filled her chest. Could Denise really have done this? Maria ended the call, her hands still trembling, and stared at the road ahead. She had walked away from the chaos at the party, hoping to protect her son from more pain, but it seemed the real trouble was only just beginning. Maria didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of Eli's bed for a long time, watching him breathe softly in his sleep, his favorite stuffed dinosaur tucked under one arm. Nothing about this peaceful scene matched the words the caseworker had used. Neglect, endangerment. She kept turning them over in her mind, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. By morning, she couldn't wait any longer. She needed answers. She called her mother first. "Mom, I need to ask you something important," Maria said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Do you know anything about someone calling CPS on me last night?" There was a long silence on the other end. "Too long, Mom?" Her mother sighed heavily. "Maria, honey, I didn't want you to find out this way." Maria's stomach turned. "Find out what way?" "Mom, just tell me." "It was Denise," her mother said quietly. "She was upset after you left. She said she was worried about Eli's behavior. She said she felt she had to do something." Maria closed her eyes, trying to breathe through the wave of anger rising in her chest. "Worried?" "Mom, she humiliated him in front of everyone. She called him an embarrassment." "That's not concern. That's cruelty." "I know," her mother said softly. "I told her she went too far. But you know how she gets when she feels challenged." Maria hung up soon after, her hands shaking. She dialed Denise's number next, her heart pounding with a mix of fury and disbelief. Denise picked up on the third ring, her voice casual, almost bored. "What do you want, Maria?" "Did you call CPS on me?" Maria asked, cutting straight to the point. There was a pause, then a short, cold laugh. "So what if I did?" Maria's breath caught. "Are you serious right now? You humiliated my son in front of the entire family, and then you tried to take him away from me." "I didn't try to take him away," Denise snapped. "I just think you need a wake-up call. You baby that kid constantly. Maybe someone official telling you the truth will finally get through to you. The truth." Maria's voice cracked with disbelief. "Denise, he's autistic. He's not broken. He doesn't need fixing. He needs support and love and patience, things you clearly don't understand." "Whatever," Denise said flatly. "Maybe this will finally teach you some responsibility." The call ended abruptly. Denise hanging up without another word. Maria stood in her kitchen, staring at the phone in her hand, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath her. Her own sister, someone she had trusted her entire life, had weaponized the system meant to protect children, used it as a punishment, a lesson, a way to control her. She thought about the silence at the party, the relatives who looked away instead of stepping in, the way no one had defended Eli except her. Now she understood why. They already knew what Denise was capable of, and they had stayed quiet anyway. That evening, while going through old messages to distract herself, Maria stumbled across something she had almost forgotten. A text conversation from months earlier, back when she and Denise had argued about Eli's diagnosis for the first time. She scrolled up, her fingers freezing on the screen when she found it. "Denise, you always take his side. One day you'll see. One day I'll make her regret ever having that kid." Maria stared at the screen, her blood running cold. She remembered the argument, remembered brushing off the comment as an angry, empty threat. She never imagined Denise had meant it. Now, sitting alone in her kitchen with a CPS case hanging over her family, the words felt less like an angry outburst and more like a promise. Her phone buzzed again. It was an email from Claire Bennett, the caseworker. Subject: home visit scheduled. Please confirm availability. Maria opened it, her hands trembling slightly. The visit was scheduled for 2 days later. The email explained that a caseworker would need to assess the home environment, speak with Eli, and review basic living conditions as part of the investigation. Maria closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe. She had done nothing wrong. Her home was safe. Eli was loved, cared for, and thriving in his own way. But she also knew how these situations could spiral. How one wrong impression, one bad moment, could be twisted into something at WAS and single quotes T. She thought about Eli's meltdowns. How overwhelming and loud they could look to someone who didn't understand autism. She thought about how a stranger walking into their home might misread comfort routines as something troubling she needed to prepare. Not just clean the house or organize paperwork, but protect her son from being misunderstood by someone who didn't know him at all. As she began making a list, pediatrician contacts, school records, therapist information, her phone buzzed one more time. A message from an unknown number. She opened it hesitantly. I heard what happened. I saw everything at the party. I should have said something. I have information you need to know before your CPS visit. Call me when you can. Aunt Carol. Maria's heart skipped. Aunt Carol rarely got involved in family conflicts. If she was reaching out now, it meant something serious. Maria's fingers hovered over the phone, torn between fear and hope. She had 2 days until strangers walked into her home to judge her parenting. And now it seemed someone finally had answers about what her sister had really done and why. She took a deep breath and pressed call. Aunt Carol answered almost immediately, as if she had been waiting by the phone. Maria, honey, thank God. Are you okay? Is Eli okay? We're managing, Maria said, her voice tired. What did you want to tell me? Aunt Carol lowered her voice, like she didn't want anyone else to hear, even though she was alone. I saw Denise on her phone right after you left the party. She looked satisfied, like she'd already done something. I didn't think much of it until I heard about CPS today. Maria's grip tightened on the phone. Did she say anything to you? Not directly, but she made a comment, something like, let's see how she likes being questioned for once. I didn't understand what she meant until now. Maria closed her eyes, feeling the pieces fall into place, each one heavier than the last. This wasn't a moment of anger from Denise. It was planned, calculated. She thanked Aunt Carol and hung up, sitting in the quiet of her living room, trying to steady her breathing. 2 days. She had 2 days before strangers came into her home to judge whether she was a fit mother. The 2 days passed in a blur of preparation, fear, and forced calm for Eli's sake. Maria organized his school records, printed his therapist's notes, and gathered letters from his pediatrician confirming his development and care. She wanted every piece of evidence ready, just in case. When the day of the home visit finally arrived, Maria felt sick with nerves. She had cleaned every corner of the house, made sure Eli's routine stayed as normal as possible, and rehearsed calm answers to questions she feared might come. At exactly 10 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Claire Bennett, the caseworker, stood at the door with a polite but professional smile. She was younger than Maria expected, holding a clipboard and a small bag. Hi, Maria. Thank you for having me, she said, stepping inside as Maria welcomed her in. The visit started calmly enough. Claire looked around the living room, noting the neatness, the safety of the space, the toys organized on shelves. She asked simple questions about routines, meals, and school. Then she asked to speak with Eli. Maria's heart raced, but she nodded, calling Eli over from his room. He walked in holding his toy car, glancing nervously at the stranger in his home. Claire crouched down slightly, trying to appear friendly. Hi, Eli. My name is Claire. Can I ask you a few questions? Eli didn't answer right away. He looked at his mother first, seeking reassurance. Maria smiled gently and nodded. But the moment felt too new, too unfamiliar. Too many changes in one day. Eli's hands began to twist together, a sign Maria knew well, the beginning of overwhelm. Claire, unaware of his signals, continued asking questions, her voice a bit too fast, a bit too unfamiliar. Eli's breathing quickened. He started rocking slightly, covering his ears. "Eli, buddy, it's okay," Maria said softly, moving closer. But it was too late. The stress became too much, and Eli began to cry, his hands flapping quickly at his sides, his small voice rising in distress. Claire watched carefully, jotting something down on her clipboard. Maria's stomach dropped, fear rushing through her. She knew exactly what this could look like to someone who didn't understand autism, instability, an unpredictable environment, a child in distress. "He's autistic," Maria explained quickly, gently guiding Eli to a quiet corner with dim lighting, his safe space. Loud voices and new people can overwhelm him. This isn't neglect. This is normal for him. He just needs time to feel safe, Claire nodded, though her expression remained unreadable. "I understand. I just have to document everything I observe." After a few tense minutes, Eli calmed down, comforted by his mother's steady presence and familiar surroundings. Claire finished her notes and prepared to leave, but before walking out, she paused. "Maria, I want to be transparent with you," she said carefully. "The report we received was quite detailed. It included specific information about your home, including your backyard camera setup." Maria blinked, confused. "My backyard camera?" Yes, the report mentioned footage of Eli having repeated meltdowns unsupervised outside. It was very specific. Maria felt a cold chill creep through her. "I don't have a backyard camera." Claire frowned slightly, checking her notes again. "That's strange." The report was very confident about it. After Claire left, Maria stood frozen in her living room, her mind racing. If she didn't have a camera, how could Denise have known such specific details? She walked outside slowly, scanning her backyard, searching every corner, every shadow. Her eyes landed on the tall wooden fence bordering her neighbor's property. Then on something small and unfamiliar tucked near the edge of her gutter, a tiny black device. Barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't her camera. Someone had planted it there. Maria's hands trembled as she reached up carefully, unclipping the small device from its hiding place. She turned it over slowly, searching for any identifying marks, any clue to who had placed it there. Then she saw it, a small sticker on the back, barely visible. With a company logo she recognized instantly. It was the same landscaping company Denise's boyfriend had recently started working for. Maria's blood ran cold as the pieces clicked into place. Denise hadn't just made a cruel comment at a party. She had gone much further than that, watching, recording, waiting for the perfect moment to use it against her. Maria stood in her backyard, gripping the tiny camera in her hand. Realizing this was no longer just about hurt feelings or old sibling rivalry. This was something far more dangerous, and she needed proof before Denise could cover her tracks. Maria didn't call the police right away. She didn't confront Denise either. Instead, she sat at her kitchen table that night, staring at the small black camera in front of her, forcing herself to think clearly instead of react. If she accused Denise without solid proof, Denise would simply deny it, twist the story, and make Maria look paranoid or unstable in front of the family again. She needed something undeniable, something that couldn't be argued away. The next morning, Maria called her lawyer, a calm and steady woman named Rachel Kim, who had helped a friend through a custody dispute years earlier. "Bring me everything you have," Rachel said over the phone. "Photos of the camera, the company sticker, the CPS report if you can request it, and anything else connected to your sister's behavior. Don't approach her yet. Let's build the case properly." Maria spent the next 2 days gathering every piece of evidence she could find. She requested a copy of the official CPS complaint through Claire, citing her legal right to know the details of the report. When it arrived, her hands shook as she read through it. The report described specific dates and times of Eli's meltdowns, mentioned details about the backyard, and even referenced a moment when Maria had raised her voice out of frustration weeks earlier, a private moment that had happened only in her own backyard. With no one else present, there was only one way Denise could have known that. Maria also contacted the landscaping company listed on the camera's sticker using a calm, non-threatening tone. She simply asked whether they had done any recent work near her home. The company representative checked their records and confirmed a technician had been scheduled for a routine trim near her property just days before the family party. A job requested and paid for privately, not through Maria's neighborhood association. The technician's name matched Denise's boyfriend exactly. Maria felt sick, but she kept going, staying focused. She then remembered something else, an old family group chat where Denise and her boyfriend often talked. Sometimes forgetting others could see certain shared updates through a connected app, scrolling back through months of messages. Mostly ignored notifications. Maria found a short audio clip Denise had accidentally sent to the wrong chat weeks earlier, meant for her boyfriend, but landing in a shared family thread instead. Maria's fingers hesitated over the play button. Then she pressed it. Denise's voice came through, casual and cold. "I already called CPS. She thinks she can just walk away from me like I don't matter. Let's see how she likes strangers judging her parenting for once. Maybe this will finally scare her straight." Maria sat frozen, listening to the recording twice more, making sure she hadn't misunderstood. There it was, undeniable proof, in Denise's own voice, admitting she had filed the report intentionally, not out of concern, but out of anger and control. Maria immediately saved the audio file in 3 different places and sent a copy directly to Rachel. "This is huge," Rachel said after listening to it. Combined with the surveillance evidence, this shows a clear pattern of harassment and false reporting. "I'll prepare everything for the caseworker and, if needed, for legal action against Denise for the camera." Maria felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief that she finally had proof to protect herself and Eli. Heartbreak that her own sister had gone this far, driven by jealousy and control rather than any real concern for her nephew. That night, as Maria tucked Eli into bed, he looked up at her with tired eyes and asked softly, "Mom, why was that lady asking me questions?" Maria sat beside him, brushing his hair back gently. "She just wanted to make sure you were happy and safe, buddy. And guess what? You are. You're the safest, happiest boy I know." Eli smiled sleepily and closed his eyes, comforted by her voice. Maria stayed a while longer, watching him sleep, feeling a renewed sense of determination. Whatever happened next, she would protect him, not with anger, but with truth. The next morning, Rachel sent the evidence, the recording, the camera photos, and the landscaping company confirmation directly to Claire Bennett's office, formally requesting the CPS case be reviewed. Considering the new information, Maria waited anxiously throughout the day, refreshing her email every hour, unable to focus on anything else. Finally, just before evening, her phone rang. It was Claire. "Maria," she said, her voice more serious than before. "I've reviewed the new evidence you provided. Given the recording and the surveillance findings, this changes things significantly." Maria held her breath. "What does that mean for us?" Claire paused for a moment. "It means the case is likely to be closed due to insufficient grounds and possible false reporting. But there's something else you should know." Maria's heart pounded. "What is it?" Claire's tone shifted, slightly cautious. "Given the seriousness of what you've uncovered, this may not just end with the case being closed. Depending on how you choose to proceed, this could become something much bigger for your sister." Maria closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. She had wanted the truth. She had wanted her son protected. But now she realized the real decision was just beginning. How far was she willing to go to make sure Denise finally faced the consequences of what she had done? Maria didn't sleep much that night either, but this time it wasn't fear keeping her awake. It was clarity. She thought about Eli's face during the home visit, the confusion in his eyes, the way he had asked why a stranger needed to question him. She thought about the tiny camera hidden in her own backyard, watching her private moments as a mother. She wasn't interested in destroying her sister, but she was done staying silent to protect a peace that had never really existed. The next family gathering was already planned for that weekend, a smaller cookout at her mother's house. Normally, Maria would have skipped it after everything that happened. But this time, she decided to go, not to cause a scene, but to finally speak the truth in front of the people who had stayed silent for too long. She arrived with Eli, who stayed close to her side, holding his toy car tightly. The moment Denise noticed them, her expression flickered with surprise, quickly covered by a forced smile. "Oh, look who decided to show up," Denise said lightly. Trying to sound casual in front of the others, Maria didn't respond right away. She waited until most of the family had gathered near the backyard table, plates in hand, conversations flowing into a comfortable lull. Then she spoke, her voice calm but clear enough for everyone to hear. "I want to say something, and I think everyone here deserves to know the truth." The yard went quiet, all eyes turning toward her. Just like they had the night everything started. After the last gathering, "Someone reported me to Child Protective Services," Maria continued steadily. "They accused me of neglecting Eli. CPS came to my home. They questioned my son. They investigated my life as a mother." Murmurs spread through the group, some relatives glancing at each other. Clearly unaware of what had happened, Denise's smile faded slightly, her arms crossing defensively. "Maria, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time," Maria said firmly, cutting her off gently but without hesitation. "Because it wasn't a stranger who did this. It was my own sister." Gasps rippled through the small crowd. Their mother's face paled, though she didn't look surprised, only sad. Denise stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You're twisting things, Maria. I was just concerned enough to install a hidden camera in my backyard," Maria asked, holding up her phone, the small device visible in a photo on her screen. "Concerned enough to have your boyfriend disguise it as a landscaping job?" The yard fell into stunned silence. Denise's face shifted from anger to something closer to panic. "That's insane," Denise said quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." Maria pressed play on her phone. Denise's own voice filled the yard, calm and cold, exactly as it had been recorded weeks earlier. "I already called CPS. She thinks she can just walk away from me like I don't matter. Let's see how she likes strangers judging her parenting for once. Maybe this will finally scare her straight." The silence that followed felt heavier than anything before it. Relatives exchanged shocked glances. Someone gasped audibly. Their mother covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Denise stood frozen, her earlier confidence completely gone. "That was taken out of context," she stammered, though her voice lacked any real conviction. "There's no context that makes spying on a child okay," Maria said quietly, her voice steady despite the emotion building inside her. "There's no context that makes falsely reporting a loving mother okay." Their mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Denise, is this true?" Denise didn't answer. Her silence was answer enough. Then, unexpectedly, an older cousin standing near the back spoke up. "This isn't the first time, is it, Denise?" The question hung in the air, drawing curious and concerned looks from the family. The cousin continued, hesitant but determined. "Remember when Aunt Linda's daughter got into that trouble at work a few years ago? Someone had reported false information to her employer. Denise was the only one who knew those details." Their mother's eyes widened, realization spreading across her face. "That was you too." Denise's composure finally cracked completely. "I was trying to help," she said weakly, though no one seemed convinced anymore. The family stood in stunned disbelief, pieces of old suspicions and unanswered questions finally clicking into place. It wasn't just one moment of anger. It was a pattern hidden for years behind a carefully maintained image of the perfect, concerned older sister. Denise, realizing she had lost control of the narrative completely, grabbed her purse from the table, her voice shaking with anger and embarrassment. "This isn't over, Maria. You'll regret this." She stormed off through the side gate, leaving behind a stunned silence and a family finally seeing the truth clearly for the first time. Maria stayed calm, kneeling beside Eli, who had been quietly watching everything unfold. "You okay, buddy?" Eli nodded slowly, still holding his toy car. "Is Aunt Denise mad?" "She's upset," Maria said gently, "but you didn't do anything wrong." Remember that, days later, just as things began to settle, Maria received an unexpected letter in the mail. She opened it carefully, her heart sinking as she read the letterhead. It was from a lawyer representing Denise. Denise was threatening to sue Maria for defamation, claiming the voicemail had been shared without consent and had damaged her reputation. Maria stared at the letter, her hands trembling slightly, not from fear this time, but from disbelief at her sister's persistence. Even now, even after everything, she picked up her phone and called Rachel immediately. If Denise wanted to take this further, Maria would be ready for whatever came next. Rachel read through the letter twice before responding, her tone calm and almost amused. "Maria, honestly, this is a good thing for us." Maria blinked, confused. "How is being sued a good thing?" "Because to sue you for sharing that recording, Denise has to argue it's false or damaging," Rachel explained. "But the recording is her own voice, admitting to filing a false CPS report and installing surveillance equipment without consent. If this goes anywhere near a courtroom, that recording becomes part of the public record. She'd be handing us exactly what we need to protect you completely and expose her actions even further." Maria sat with that for a moment, feeling a strange calm settle over her. She hadn't shared the recording to hurt Denise. She had shared it because the family deserved the truth. If Denise wanted to escalate things now, that was her choice, not Maria's. "Do you want to fight this?" Rachel asked gently. Maria thought of Eli asleep down the hall, safe and unaware of the storm still swirling around him. "I don't want to fight for the sake of fighting," she said quietly. "I just want this to finally be over. I want my son to feel safe, and I want people to stop pretending Denise's behavior is normal. Then we respond firmly, but we don't chase this," Rachel said. "We let her lawsuit fall apart on its own weight. And we make sure everyone who matters already knows the truth." Rachel sent a formal legal response within days, laying out the facts plainly: unauthorized surveillance, a documented false report to CPS, and Denise's own recorded admission. The letter made clear that any attempt to pursue defamation claims would only invite further scrutiny into Denise's actions, including the possibility of legal consequences for the hidden camera itself. 2 weeks later, Rachel called with an update. Denise's lawyer withdrew the claim, she said simply. No response, no continued threats. "It's over." Maria felt a wave of relief wash through her, tension she hadn't even realized she was still carrying finally easing from her shoulders. But the real change wasn't in courtrooms or legal letters. It was in her family. Word had spread quickly after that day in the backyard. Relatives who had once stayed silent began reaching out to Maria, some apologizing for not speaking up sooner, others simply checking in to see how Eli was doing. Aunt Carol visited more often, bringing small toys Eli loved, taking time to learn about his favorite routines instead of judging them. Even her mother, though heartbroken over the rift with Denise, began making real efforts, asking Maria questions about autism, wanting to understand rather than assume, showing up for Eli in ways she never had before. Denise, on the other hand, slowly faded from family events. A few relatives mentioned she had grown distant, embarrassed by how everything had unfolded, unwilling to face the people who now saw her clearly. Maria didn't feel triumphant about it. She simply felt free, no longer carrying the constant tension of walking on eggshells around her sister's moods. Months passed, and life slowly returned to a calmer rhythm. Eli continued thriving at school, his teachers praising his progress, his small victories celebrated at home with extra excitement. Maria made sure every gathering after that day was different, smaller, quieter, centered around what Eli actually needed rather than what looked normal to everyone else. When the next big family reunion came around, Maria's mother suggested something new. Instead of a loud, crowded party, they planned a relaxed afternoon at the park, with quiet activities, shaded areas, and flexible timing. all designed with Eli's comfort in mind. Eli spent the day happily spinning his toy car along the smooth park pathways, laughing freely, surrounded by relatives who finally understood him instead of judging him. Aunt Carol sat beside him for a while, quietly matching his calm energy, letting him lead the moment instead of forcing conversation. Watching from a nearby bench, Maria felt her heart swell with quiet pride. This was what family was supposed to feel like: safe, accepting, and understanding, without conditions attached. Denise wasn't there. She hadn't been invited, and for once, no one seemed to miss the tension her presence always brought. As the afternoon sun began to set, casting a warm golden light across the park, Eli ran over to Maria, holding up his toy car with a proud smile. "Mom, look how fast it goes." Maria smiled, pulling him into a gentle hug. "You're amazing, buddy. You know that." He nodded simply, already distracted by the next patch of pathway to explore. Maria watched him run off again, feeling a deep sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She thought back to that night at the first party, the humiliation, the fear, the uncertainty of what was coming next. Walking away that night hadn't been the end of anything. It had been the beginning of something better, a quieter, honest life built around protecting her son's peace instead of chasing everyone else's approval. She had lost a sister along the way, but she had gained something far more valuable: a family that finally saw her son for who he truly was, and a strength in herself she never knew she had until she was forced to use it. And as Eli's laughter echoed across the park one more time, Maria knew, without any doubt, that she had made the right choice that night, the moment she chose to simply walk away.